We are live here today on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all over the globe, coming here live for you guys. We are talking about the Nolan Xavier Wells case today, and I have a very special guest joining me today, Judge Carlos Moore, who's an actual judge. He went viral not too long ago for really explaining a lot of the inconsistencies and how things should happen in dealing with this case and everything like that. So I want to bring him on so he can share his expertise with us, because I know a lot of us, I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on TV. We pretend like that we really know what's going on, but it's great to actually talk to people who went to school. They do this for their living and can actually shed some real light on what's going on. So let me bring him into the mix. Judge Moore, are you there? Do this for their living and can. All right, sir. How are you doing? You're looking good. I like your background. You got the. I don't even know. What are those pictures of behind you?
I'm not even sure. My wife picked those out a few months ago, so I'm not sure they're there.
I hear you. That's like my wife just buys me clothes. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but she told me to wear it, so I'm here. That's amazing. No, I really appreciate it. I would put on my jacket, but I'm up in my studio. It's kind of hot here, but let me see. Because you're looking pretty sharp there. Let me put on my jacket so you don't feel so alone, Just up in my studio. Yeah. This is, Lock Contento NYC makes all my suits. Do you know the comedian Donnell Rawlings?
I don't think so. No.
You ever heard? Oh, you gotta check out Donnell Rawlings. He's hilarious. But he hooked me up with his suit maker, so that's why I got my suits. So anyway, Judge, I'd love to get right into it. And if you don't mind just kind of giving people a little bit of what your background is, you're obviously a judge, but just, for those who don't know you, just kind of let them know a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, gladly. I am a retired judge. I served on the bench in Mississippi for 6.5 years, and I started practicing law 24 years ago in 2002. So nearly a quarter of a century I've been practicing law, and out of that 24 years, I did 6.5 years on the bench.
Wow, that's impressive. So and you were doing that in Mississippi. And what are your experiences? We hear a lot of people who we saw the interview with Trayson, we see it with Warren, with Officer, I call him Race Batum Tatum. How everybody loves to claim there's no racism here. They say we're race baiting and everything. What is your experience in Mississippi? Do you agree with what they're saying, or do you disagree?
Well, Sam, I currently reside in Atlanta. I currently practice in Tennessee, but for a majority of my practice, up until 24, I did practice in Mississippi, and so with 22 years in Mississippi and 6.5 years in Mississippi, so I can give you my perspective from my time there in Mississippi. But yeah, things are not going normal. As normal as they should in Mississippi, based on my past experiences being there. I'm a former prosecutor, former judge there, as well as a former private practitioner, and I have not seen anything like this in my time there in Mississippi. So I'm very surprised that things are not going as they should in my
Interesting. Now, how do you mean things are not going as they should? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I do know that usually prosecutors, law enforcement, or whatever, they go for the low-hanging fruit, and there's so much there to pick from, so many things that people could have been prosecuted for by now, or at least arrested for by now. I mean, there's underage drinking. I mean, in Mississippi, the legal drinking age is 21, so anyone under 21 caught drinking or that's underage drinking, contributing to the delinquency of minors. Anyone who bought alcohol for minors, that is illegal in Mississippi. Someone could be arrested for that. Theft, grand larceny, petty larceny, that's illegal in Mississippi.
Right, the cell phone, the keys is what you're meant.
Correct. So we had someone saying, give me my phone back, my freaking phone back, my dumping phone back, and no one gave the phone back. So why not arrest that person? Clearly, there are witnesses that know who had the phone.
Right.
Allegations of illicit drug use. Drugs are still illegal in Mississippi. But it's been arrested for that. And so there's so much there that pressure should have been applied to certain people to have them to speak towards the ultimate crime of murder. But here, it has not happened, and that's the normal way that crimes are solved, is you put pressure on folks for lesser crimes, and they initially spill the beans. They eventually spill the beans on the greater crime.
Interesting. That's an interesting perspective. Yeah, because my question is, like, you hear in the interviews of the two boys that have appeared, they both admit that everybody's drinking. They admit they're driving on a boat. Is that enough to get you prosecuted? I mean, are they in a sense admitting that they committed a crime, and that you could say, look, you guys said on tape that, you know, everybody, nobody's 21. You say, people are drinking. Is that kind of incriminating what, Warren and them were saying?
It is incriminating. Anything you say can be used against you. Usually can and will be used against you, but in this instance, it has not been used against them, and I can only imagine why not. Because had the roles been reversed and 3 blacks come back to the land and the white person dead, they would have all kind of pressure, and there would have been some arrests within 24 hours of making it back to the land.
Yeah, we would have seen it all over the news. I mean, I can see it in my head now. They would be getting marched into that police station in Mississippi. The town would come together. I think that's part of, how people say, a lot of, people, don't everybody has to make about race, Ben Crump, a race baiter and race divider and all this stuff. But I think, like, you hit it on the head. What makes this about race is, and I keep saying this, it's not necessarily that whatever happened to Nolan was based on his race, but it's funny, it's the aftermath of how the
don't know what's going on.
media narrative, how they treat it. I was even saying in the Carmelo Anthony trial or other trials, generally, like, when it's a black man, a white man, or whichever gender, the white kid is always, like, you see the high school picture, them like smiling, and a football picture or whatever. And then all we saw, like with Carmelo Anthony, was his mugshot, and just a no smile. They don't project innocence at all. And they don't, and this, like, light of who this kid was, they really go after assassinating their character. And yeah, we know if they were black, they would have been arrested within 24 hours. Like you said, we would have known all of their names. They would be sitting in jail until this trial comes around. And do you think it's just the influence of this town that these kids are, I mean, the fact that they're able to go on Tatum's show and just do these, canned interviews, like, I what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's very odd, especially if it was my best friend that had been killed, mysteriously died. I would have been at the funeral. I understand that Officer Tatum interviewed one of the guys on the day of the funeral. I drove from Atlanta to be there in Mississippi for the funeral. And so why couldn't that person that was allegedly the friend be there, just go a few miles up the road to be at the funeral? I'll never understand that.
And you were at the funeral. I didn't know that. Can you tell us, like, what was that like? What did you see any of the boys that were in some of these photos at all? Or what was your experience there at the funeral?
Yeah, the pain was palpable. My heart really went out to the mother and the father. I mean, that sometimes Christine Wonsley's crying was inconsolable. I mean, it was just heart-wrenching to witness. And then I could just imagine what the father was going through, trying to be strong and brave and be there for his wife and the rest of the family. But he had a load to bear himself. And so my heart really went out to them. It was just such a sad situation, knowing that it goes against the order of things for the parents to be burying their child, especially under this type of circumstance with no answers.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And did you notice any of the friends that we've seen in these pictures, or what would you say that was like? Was it, I mean, obviously I'm sure there was a lot of people at this funeral, but did you happen to see any of the friends? 'Cause I know Warren said he skipped because he was getting death threats, and I keep reiterating, look, if this is my best friend, I'm gonna hire security if I'm really that concerned about my safety, but I'm not gonna miss my best friend's funeral. I'm not gonna miss showing up for the family.
I did not see Warren or any of the other two that's pictured or depicted on the picture with Nolan. The picture that's going around the world now. I did not see
Right.
any of those guys there. I did see Javon there and I believe his brother, and I took a picture with those two. But other than that, I did not see any of the friends that happen to be white, or the so-called friends that happen to be white on that picture. Yes.
Was Trayston there? Did he go to the funeral, or?
I did not see him there at all either.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw in the interview when Trayston says, when they talk about Ben Crump, that they act like he's this cancer that's been brought into Mississippi to, stirring up all these race. And it's like, this is Mississippi at the end of the day. And I found it very disrespectful that Trayston would be angry that Ben Crump was, he made it 1,000% worse. You know what I mean? They don't know who they're messing with. And it's like, but you're talking about the family. The family hired Ben Crump to come in and get justice for their son. So if you're his true best friend, wouldn't you say, oh, thank God Ben Crump is here. We need to get to the bottom of this. To me, when you're angry at Ben Crump, that tells me you're trying to cover something up, or you don't want something to be uncovered, because they just want the family to hire nobody and to just roll over and say, okay, it was accidental, even though all you guys are acting kind of suspicious and you're not really telling me what happened. If they said, Miss Christine, here is what happened. He fell off the boat, he hit his head, we did our best, we called the cops, we called an ambulance immediately or something. But, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, the people that were last known to be around Nolan, their actions have been very suspicious. And so I don't blame Christine and Elmore at all for hiring Ben Crump, who's an excellent attorney, in my opinion, to come in and do an independent investigation, to lead an independent investigation, and to shed the light of day on some things. I mean, the family is asking for transparency. They're not getting that from the local law enforcement. And if Tristan wanted to be mad at anyone, he should be mad at the local sheriff, Ledbetter, who came out within a day of the death of Nolan and said that no foul play was suspected. How could he not suspect foul play so soon? No autopsy had been done. The investigation had just started. And so how could you not suspect foul play? Why wouldn't you?
Right. And I know Sheriff Ledbetter, I've done some research on him, and he comes from, like, his family is like, they've all been the sheriff. It's like this thing that's passed down generation after generation. And I think what a lot of people don't grasp about Mississippi is, like, it wasn't more than 60 years ago where they were killing people in Mississippi. They were holding picnics to lynch people and this and that. So do you think that just went away? Like, your great grandfather was probably part of that, and then your grandfather, and then it's just, I don't understand how people don't get that racism is passed down generation to generation. It's not something that just goes away. But what do you think, just in the ways that he has handled it? I know your video that went viral and everything, like, can you explain to people a little bit what just, like, gets your spidey senses going, that just something doesn't seem right in the way they're handling it? Stacey Turner, the medical examiner, I know she has a history of ruling things undetermined or accidental. So, just explain to us how the whole system is kind of working against Nolan.
Yeah, and Sam, I'm from Mississippi, so I can talk about Mississippi. It really stinks to high heaven, some of the things that I've seen and witnessed during my time there. And so I'm so happy to be living in Atlanta, Georgia now, because, like you say, you had the mid-50s when Emmett Till was killed. I mean, he was killed for simply whistling at a white woman, and no one was ever held responsible in a court of law there. No one has been brought to justice for killing Emmett Till, and they know exactly who killed him. Lamar Smith was killed on the courthouse steps in Brookhaven, Mississippi, for helping register blacks to vote. And this was in the mid-50s, early 60s, when he was killed And the sheriff witnessed the killing, and no one was ever brought to justice. I mean, killed him in broad daylight in Mississippi. And so things like that have occurred. Medgar Evers was killed in front of his home. Now, someone was brought to justice years later, but it took several years before someone was brought to justice for that. And so time and time again, people have gotten away literally with murder in Mississippi. But this time, if something went awry, we plan to make sure that Mississippi holds those accountable, no matter their race, no matter their class, because Nolan Xavier Wells' life mattered.
Yes, absolutely. And what do you think about the DA, McGrath or whatever her name is? You know, people are saying like she could be a lot more transparent, knowing the history of Mississippi. And what do you think about her